Welcome, everybody, to Transform, Grow, Succeed. And this podcast is about elevating all of the ideas that we can share to elevate what we can offer all of those that we serve. And I'm excited to welcome two amazing guests who are doing great things here in Southern Arizona and potentially even beyond. I'd like to introduce our guest today, Dr. Katie Kuhn. Dr. Katie Kuhn leads Safford K-8, a community school where education is part of something much bigger. This whole network of supports for students and families built on this community school model. And Elizabeth Slater is Executive Director of Youth on Their Own, and your organization serves students across Southern Arizona with a laser focus on one clear mission, and that's helping youth who are experiencing homelessness graduate from high school. And what brings us together today is what I hope is a nice, juicy question for conversation. What can school systems that are increasingly looking to meet as many needs as possible learn from an organization like Youth on Their Own, which is absolutely disciplined about meeting only one? And how might both approaches help young people thrive? So thanks again for both of you for being on the show today.
Thanks.
We're glad to be here.
Katie, would you tell us a bit about yourself and how you came to be the leader that you are now?
So this is my 5th year at Safford, and Tim, because we started here together my very first year when I had no idea what a community school model was. I had a vision for the school when I came in. Safford was a very, very struggling school. We were an F school. We had tons and tons of behavior problems. We were number one on the list of most calls into the police department. And it was a rough school to start in. And so when I started, I thought I had a vision where we were going to go. And I was then informed on my first day that not only was my vision not going to happen, but I was going to be a community school model. I had no idea what that was. Now I can tell you, hindsight is 2020. Had I known that first day, I would have not had any fear. The community school model, in my opinion, is probably one of the best ways to run a school, especially a downtown school that has a lot going on, because there are so many needs on campus. And so when I took over, we were in F. We were in F for the first 2 years. Just in my benefit, I just want to say the Fs are a year ago. So we're a B school now. We earned that last year. So we've been a B school now for 3 consistent years. We went straight from an F to a B, and we did that mostly because of the systems we put in place and because the services we could find for our families and our students. And Youth on Their Own is one of the services, Elizabeth, that we use on this campus, and we've used it for 5 years since I've been here. The community school model is one where everybody's welcome. The whole community is welcome. We're in downtown Tucson. We've got Armory Park next door. We've done projects where we serve the homeless. We've done projects where we work with everybody in the community. The churches around us help us. Armory Park Neighborhood Association, who was really not happy with this when I started, is now one of our biggest supporters. The Armory Park Neighborhood Association meets in our boardroom every month. The Historic Association meets at our school. But none of that was happening before. And the community school model is one that did that. So I'm really excited to still be the principal at Safford. Sustainability is what we're looking for. And so I think one of the most important things that we can do is know the systems and know what the services are in the neighborhood. And so Youth on Our Own is really a great service that we have that's offered here at Safford as well.
So real quick, before we pivot to Elizabeth, I would just want to just give you a moment to share, for folks that maybe not know what a community school is, what is that?
So when you enroll in a school, there's different models. You can go to a magnet school where their focus is GATE education, gifted and talented. You can go to a magnet school where their focus is STEM, so science and technology. I don't have a magnet school. I have none of the money that comes from the magnet school. Community school models don't in TUSD come with any funding. But it's the belief that we have to be a community and we have to focus as a community. So the community school model is we're educating a group of students, but I think we've all heard the saying, it takes a village to raise a child. We believe it takes an entire community to run a school.
So you might say then, like, sometimes there's perhaps a desire in broader culture to blame the community for why a school is the way it is, But a community school is no, actually, the community and the resources in the community are the solution to what our school needs. And you kind of shown that. You were an F, now you're a B.
Right,
And
exactly. And
so,
we're starting, like, what the newest program we're starting right now, which we stole from another school,
mhm,
is called the Fix It program. The residents of Armory Park are coming in to teach our students how to fix things, like how to fix a clock that broke, how to
mhm,
fix a microwave that broke. That's not something that Armory Park would have done before because we were a school in Armory Park. Now
mhm,
we are Armory Park School. We also have on campus a resource center where anybody that lives in the community, not just the people that go to our school, can come and get laundry detergent. They can come and get
mhm,
food boxes. They can come and get clothes and shoes. They can come and get toiletries, deodorant, and that all is donations from our community. And so we're turning ourselves into a community hub for resources. But on top of that, we have people from the church that is meets here on Sundays, come and teach our kids chess. We have
mhm.
Zion Church, which is down the street, which is a different church, came and did over $10,000 worth of upgrades on our campus and brought 3,000 people and did a facelift to the campus. That's what being a community school model is. Also, when I get phone calls from parents and they say, hey, my other school wouldn't let me come in unless I did. And I'm like, no, parents are always welcome.
Mhm.
We have an open door policy. If you want to come and sit in your kid's class, come sit in your kid's class. If you want to come every day, we'll put you in someone else's class. We'll put you in 5 classes. Um, it's about having access to the school, having complete transparency, and realizing that if if a family's going to trust us with their child, we want to trust them to come in. Um,
Mhm.
Obviously, it's a system, so you have to fill out paperwork and that kind of stuff if you're working with other people's kids. But being a community school model means we don't limit who can come on campus and help us,
Mhm.
and we don't limit who we help. So we've had people from the neighborhood who didn't have a student come and say, I'm struggling. I need laundry detergent. I have no laundry detergent. And we take them over, we get them up, leave with a whole bottle of Tide, not a little
Mhm.
cup of Tide to do one load of wash, but a whole bottle of Tide.
Mhm.
We want people to see us as a resource to the community. We can't solve all the problems. We have another company who grant funded. They give out for meals for entire families every Friday that they cook at home. And everybody on campus, my staff can get it, communities can get it, members can get it, students can get it. So it's just a community school model means understanding that a school can't operate in isolation. We
Mhm.
we all have to be a part of that school.
And that is just the most delicious way to, I think, pivot over to youth on their own just a bit because that community school model is born out of the fact that our community has some really big needs, and schools can either exist as part of that community or they can choose not to. But we see just even in the academic achievement data that the fact that Katie can give community members laundry detergent means that they are now a B school. Like there's a relationship between that and the results that they're getting. And Youth on Their Own also has partnerships everywhere. But I'd love to hear just from your own perspective how all that works. And so, Elizabeth, would you tell me about yourself and just how you came to be the leader that you are?
Sure. Hi, I'm Elizabeth Slater, and I love working with teenagers. That's
Mhm,
kind of how I got where I am. I just figured that out pretty early on, and I always knew I would work in a caring profession. My
mhm,
undergraduate degree is in nonprofit administration. I just knew that I was always going to work in this sector. But teens, especially teen girls, are kind of a cohort of youth that I've worked with a lot as a volunteer. I volunteer in the foster care system, first as a CASA, now as on the foster
mhm,
care review board for the state. And I used to be a volunteer here at Youth on Their Own. It's just a mission I really, really believe in. And so the stars aligned about 6.5 years ago, and now I get to run this organization, and it's truly the biggest honor of my life. I think what we do is so crucial, and we've had just really excellent strategic leaders lately in the past 10 years that have really helped us hone, and now we're so clear about what we're good at, and we're just nailing it. Like we're our outcomes are getting so much better, and we're preparing for potentially expanding the type of impact we have outside of our area. But right now, we partner with over 100 schools in
mhm,
Pima County, and our mission is to help youth who are experiencing homelessness stay in high school, graduate, and then plan for what's next. And this really matters because it turns out a high school diploma is actually one of the biggest indicators of whether a youth experiencing homelessness becomes an adult experiencing homelessness. They're 450% more likely to continue experiencing homelessness if they don't get that high school diploma. It just opens up all the roads to them for furthering education or higher paying jobs. So we are very laser focused on this. Our mission is high school graduation and planning for what's next, kind of transitioning away from YOTO support. And we pour a ton of resources into that mission. We are giving away over $1 million directly to minors every year through a conditional cash transfer. That's what the model's called. But it's an educational stipend that youth earn that's based on their attendance, which is the top indicator of whether they will graduate, is if their butt is in a seat in a classroom with a trained educator at a school with all these resources. The schools are hubs for these youth. It's where they eat meals. It's where, for youth experiencing homelessness, it just doesn't look like adult homelessness. It's not what people think. Most youth experiencing homelessness are couch surfing. So schools like where they find friends to say, can I crash with you for a few weeks? Then they hop over to somebody else's house. So schools are really so essential. And that's why we're very focused on trying to get youth at school as much as possible. And then in addition to providing that education stipend, we also provide all their basic needs for free. So food, shelf-stable food, I should say, hygiene supplies, school supplies, and guidance from adults. And that's kind of our magic formula to support youth and kind of walk alongside them on their path to graduation.
And it really is a magic formula. And I'm wondering, is there like a favorite data point that you can share to show that this magic formula is as magical as we all kind of know it is if we're working here with you in Tucson?
I mean, the number one thing we pay attention to is the high school graduation rate of the youth in our program. And that varies from high 80s to low 90s every year, which is bonkers. I mean, the graduation rate for all youth in Pima County is like in the 70s. And for the state of Arizona, it's only 52% if a youth experiences homelessness during high school. So the fact that we're able to get it up to average of 90% a year is amazing. I mean,
okay, I just want to stop for a second. We have two leaders right now, one of whom is leading a school that was an F when you started there, is a B now, and that's not easy to do. And then here, you're telling me, Elizabeth, that youth on their own, the graduation rate in Arizona is shockingly low, but to hear an 80 to 90% graduation rate among youth who are experiencing homelessness, that is a huge barrier to graduation. And with your supports, you're achieving some really very important things for youth. And one of the things I've always admired about YOTO is that your entire team really does have a very clear sense of focus. Like, this is what I do for youth. This is what I am charged to do. This is when I go to work, I am not meandering about 400 things. I know what I am laser focused about. How does YOTO decide what is in bounds what is part of the magic formula and what really isn't?
Yeah, well, first I want to thank you for perceiving us that way because, every nonprofit in their life cycle goes through different stages. And there were certainly times in YOTO's past where we were trying to do everything and we weren't seeing the results that we wanted. And then it happened again during COVID when just money was coming at us from every direction. Can you give this money to domestic violence survivors? Could you give this money to whoever? There was just like resources out of our ears. And it was really easy to go off mission because we were just trying to help people who really needed help. So I will say 3 years ago, we adopted mission obsessed as our organizational mantra, literally. And everyone had the mission statement taped up at their workstation. And we just got really into celebrating how good we could be at the thing that we know how to do well. We are a really data-driven organization. So to your question, how did we decide that? We work with evaluators. We work with external evaluators all the time who are coming in and looking at the data and saying, okay, but you could do it this way and have a better impact. And so an example is a few years ago, we changed YOTO. YOTO used to be for 37 years, we were a one-size-fits-all organization, meaning every youth who came to YOTO got the exact same support from us. And we worked with some evaluators after hearing from some of our liaisons at the schools, like, hey, not every student needs the exact same thing. We asked our evaluators to look at that question and tell us. they actually advised us to adopt like a tier-based model. So now youth come in and we place them in a tier. Youth with the highest level of need, they're in our max tier. They get the most money from us, the most time. You know, we are able to kind of tier our support. And that did an incredible thing. I mean, we saw the school attendance for the youth who are the most unstable just absolutely skyrocket, because now they were earning way more money. They didn't have to drop out to work more hours at a job. And just that extra support is the thing they needed. And meanwhile, the rest of the youth are able to maintain their high attendance with the support we were already giving them. So it was a good way. We just use that kind of external eye and really looking at the data to tell us how can we do this the best way. And now I think we actually have the model that is it. It is working so well, and we're engaged with an evaluator right now that's going to help us just prove it for sure before we think about expanding to new places. But I think we just kept honing it till it was the right thing. And now we know what we're good at. We know how to train people at YOTO to do the program, and we know how to work with our schools to implement it well.
Katie, you have to jump in.
I was waiting.
Yeah,
I was waiting
because what
I want to say is what Elizabeth hit on is there's a common thread between why we're a B school and why YOTO is effective, and that's the attendance. You cannot help somebody who's not here. If we don't get them through the door, we can't help them. So having the resource centers on campus in a larger sort of scope than YOTO does is the key to making people come to the campus. They come here because they know we can help. And so where we would have parents who don't have cars, and if they have to go to a resource center on the other side of town, they take their kids out of school. And all of those kids miss school so that they can go pick up, a food box. They're going to go somewhere else. So what YOTO did, which I think is just so incredibly brilliant, is tie it to attendance, because not only does that hit their data points and improve graduation rate, but we know that students that are on campus every single day are, number one, getting food at least twice a day. Number two, they're getting shelter. Number three, they're in a safe environment where they don't have to feel on edge all the time. There's a teacher running the class. But I think even more important, they're here so they can get the education, which then leads to the graduation rate. So even though I'm not a high school, we saw with the students on our campus that are involved in programs like YOTO, higher attendance rates, higher pass rates, because I believe that some of the money's even tied to, you've got to be passing your classes, you've got to show up, and it's not just show up, you've got to show up and be present, and present as in your brain is here. And that helps us as a campus. So one of the things that you asked Tim about was they're laser focused on this small group. We have a big group, but we can't do it all. However, if we find a YOTO that can help this group, then we can find another organization that helps this group. Then they can be laser targeted, use the data to drive their instruction, set up their criteria, and then we benefit from that. So we're not redoing work that YOTO's already doing. We're not then having to have dropout prevention, work with our YOTO kids because YOTO is helping with that situation. We're not having the Rotary provide, like some of our YOTO kids have gotten Christmas things from YOTO. That allows us to give those Christmas items that we get in here to a family that doesn't qualify for YOTO, but knowing that this child is already handled. So it's sort of, we're a system on a bigger scale, but just like YOTO, we use data to drive everything. So everybody does not qualify. Just like Elizabeth said, when you really bring down the data and you really break it down and you use systems to look at where the real needs are in the community, if you use a system to address those and address exactly what they need, not the shotgun approach, not throw everything at everybody, but really targeted. And then I just want to go back to something Elizabeth said, because you are the first person I've heard say this. And I just want to tell you, you are so right. When we started, it was COVID. They were throwing money at me. I could not figure out where to spend my money. I was like, what do I do with all this money? Now, if somebody throws $1,000 at me, I'm like, oh, it is like the gift. It's fauna from heaven, because before $1,000, I didn't even sneeze at that. Like, I wouldn't even look at that. Now $1,000, that's the difference between my ballet folklorico having a dress or not. That's the difference between having a chess team or not. And so now we need companies that have really, and community partners that have really honed their mission. So we're not doing the shotgun approach. So when we find a place like YOTO that says, all right, we've got our formula, we know who we can serve, we know who we can help, we're not sending people to them that don't qualify. And that was the next thing I wanted to put in. When you're a community school model, people come to you, they don't know what they need. They just know it's not working. So they come and they have this huge myriad of things that are keeping them from getting their kids to school, keeping them from being homeless, keeping them from all of these things. And then if we really know our community, we can get them where they need to go. But if you start saying, well, here, try YOTO, here, try this, here, try Goodwill, here, try the Salvation Army, here, try this, here, try this. You've now sent them to 15 places and 14 of them turn them away. They stop trying. You need to know your services in the neighborhood. You need to know your community, but then you also need to know who can help who and who is, it doesn't make any sense. So as YOTO moved away from supporting every youth, every kid out there, we've shifted kids that are truly McKinney-Vento to just McKinney-Vento. We've shifted kids who are truly YOTO to truly YOTO. We don't try to overlap and double up systems, because then you dilute what they're doing and you dilute the efficacy and it messes up the data. And for us data people, I live in data. Like, I have teachers that give me things that say, nice story, show me the data. You know, if you can really truly show me what you need, I can find the person to get it to you. But it's finding out what that person really needs and then getting them what they need to solve the problem, not giving them everything, because then you're just wasting your resources.
Elizabeth, I'm wondering where you might land on some of that, because there's, of course, because I know Katie, just as a school leader, is in particular very mission obsessed with data in the same way that YOTO is mission obsessed with your mission too. I'm wondering, has there ever been a time where the data really did suggest that YOTO needed to stop doing something?
Yes. I mean, I mentioned kind of the tiered model was the biggest time when the data suggested we should stop doing a one-size-fits-all thing, but we've also changed other things. Like, we used to base our educational stipend on grades that students were getting in their classes. Now it's based on attendance, because we were potentially incentivizing the wrong behavior. If all we were telling this kid was figure out how to get A's in these classes, that could incentivize cheating, could incentivize a bunch of behavior we didn't want. What we want is for them to be at school, because that's where the educators are, and that's where the other resources that they need are, that Katie was mentioning, like food, all the things. And I mean, even in YOTO's previous iterations, we've had data helping us define what does it mean to be experiencing homelessness, because there are various definitions of that as well. And we have kind of our own specialized definition of it, which includes most McKinney-Vento youth, but not McKinney-Vento youth living with their parents. You know what I mean? It's like we have to be really clear in all the ways about who we serve, how we serve them, and what we do. But I do want to say, just listening, I previously served, I just termed off of a board, the Amphi Foundation, which is the foundation that raises money for the Amphi district. And we helped privately raise money to launch a community school at Nash Elementary. Angel Charity for Children mostly funded that, but some other private funding. And it was transformative in every way that you've already heard about at Safford. Attendance went way back up. Parents were reporting they could work more hours because now there was an extended after school program. I mean, all the things. And they do food distribution and blankets. And we partner with them a lot for resource sharing and when we have extra stuff at our mini mall. And I just think I just wanted to say, I really think community schools, it's a beautiful model. And schools, for me, it makes sense that a school is the hub for all the things. Nonprofits, the way we fit in is we have to figure out how are we adding value in a way where we're both trying to achieve the same thing. And I have seen some organizations struggle with that because they only want to be their thing. Like YOTO has a set mission, but our mission is to achieve something a school also wants to achieve. That is why that's how we're adding real value to a school, versus being more interested in achieving our own thing without considering like the context, especially of our most key partners, like which are our school partners. So it's really, I just think the ecosystem is really interesting, and it does, for organizations like Youth on Their Own, I think the being so clear about what we do and getting good at that. And then, you know, there is a wraparound of services. Like we don't provide healthcare. El Rio does healthcare for our youth. We don't provide fresh food access, but Tucson Family Food Project helps us provide fresh food access. Like, you know, we have partners that do their thing really well too. And we together can kind of build that little hug of support that wraps around a student. And sometimes we try to drive youth to school for everything. So try to get most of that stuff to happen at school. And then some of the stuff they can get at Youth on Their Own directly. But that's like a really secondary location of our services, I would say, because we really want them at school as much as possible.
So that is just, it is such a delicious thing to think about because, you know, of course, the way I framed it out at the beginning of this conversation, you know, might say that there's a tension between this idea of a community school, which tries to do as much as we possibly can for students, and Youth on Their Own, which is just has a at least I would say for sure, since I've had a chance to work with Youth on Their Own as a school leader, and certainly just now interfacing with your amazing crew, just a reputation for being very disciplined about, yeah, our mission is taped to my computer and monitor. I know what it is, and I know what my role in achieving that is. And I'm hearing kind of something very similar from both of you. And Katie, I want to start with you first. Because a lot of times school leaders, I could imagine a lot of school leaders thinking about this. How on earth am I supposed to be in charge of my community's laundry detergent? How on earth am I, as the principal here, with everything I have to do, supposed to be in charge of how chess happens or how the Folklorico Club gets their dresses? It is already an impossible job. And now I know I need to get my arms around the needs of my kids as best I can. But how can I myself be in charge of it? I'm not sure that you're saying that you yourself, Katie, are in charge of this. And would you tell me more about that?
So, it's funny because I was just talking to my leadership team about this yesterday. Mm-hmm. It's systems. So it takes a long time to set up a system that's effective and sustainable. But if I know that there's a need in the community and I need, like when we set up the resource center, I wasn't going to do that. I can't lead that. I'm leading a school, and I'm in charge of academics, and I'm in charge of enrollment, and I'm in charge of funding, and I'm in charge of all of these things. But if I try to do that on my own, it doesn't work. So you need to have people that within your system that know what their mission is. And just exactly, Tim, what you were saying about what Elizabeth did was laser focus on your mission. And so I have I have Fred Ronstadt, who's still at Safford. Even though he joined us through another organization, he's still at Safford, and he still is laser focused on keeping our community school model going. So if I have something that falls into resources or falls into outside services that are an academic, mm-hmm. I'm tapping into Fred. I'm calling Fred. I'm like, yo, Fred, we need this. And then Fred takes off with it. If I have something that's more YOTO, I'm going to my MTSS facilitator who manages YOTO on campus. And I'm saying, hey, I've got this student. It looks like they would benefit from this program. And I'm a lot of handoffs. So in the seat I'm sitting on, mm-hmm. I'm the delegator. And I'll tell you what, if there's one thing I can do, I can delegate. I can delegate anything to anybody, any day. And there's a joke on my campus. When I come up and go, hey, everybody runs. That means, hey, I have an idea. They're like, oh gosh, here she comes again. But if you're going to work in a community school model, you got to realize you're a cog in the wheel. Mm-hmm. You're one of those people that makes it work. And no one person has to be responsible for everything, but everybody has to be responsible for something. And so if we all are willing to do it in the community school model, and we have Elizabeth Glenn Anderson, who's reaching out to Elizabeth's group, and we have Fred Ronstadt, who's reaching out to the churches and the Armory Parks and the Historic Society. And then I have Julia Flaherty, and Julia's reaching out and doing the academic side. And then I've got my office manager, who, by the way, is related to half my school. I call her and I'm like, hey, I need this. I can call her and in 2 days have the entire lowriders show here on my campus.
Mhm.
So it's knowing your community, knowing the people, the staff that you work with, and then recruiting explicitly to fill the gaps. So when I'm going out and I'm hiring people, I'm looking for people that are looking for the community school model. And what's interesting is there's is it, Cal State? I think it might be Cal State that has a community school model program where they're and don't quote me on that university, I might be wrong, but I know it's in California, where they graduate community school model teachers. So whenever I see one of those applications come through, man, I'm like calling that person within 3 seconds, because they understand the system behind the school, and they understand that their system functions, then your academic rigor can go up. So moving your academic rigor seems really counterintuitive to the community school model, but it's actually completely together, because I start every one of my assemblies with, you guys deserve the same academic education that they get in the Catalina foothills. And you are going to get that here. And I warn them, it's not going to be easy. If you're showing up here thinking it's going to be easy, it's not going to be easy. Why? Because we know you can do it. And it's that putting that expectation back out that you are a part of the community school model as a student, which means you have a responsibility to do your best. And parents, you put your student here, so you have a responsibility to part of the community for the rest of the community. So it's like that system has to be so sustainable that when I lose one of those members of that system, the next employee I look at, I'm not just looking at like, I'm hiring a librarian. I need a librarian that can also do this, because that's what's missing on my campus. And we all know the funding for academics in Arizona is not pretty. So we have to leverage absolutely everything. We leverage every person, we leverage every system, we leverage every position. My library assistant runs our movie night, which means she's the one asking the Dollar Tree to donate the popcorn, because that's $5 we don't have to pay for. And that adds up. And after a year, if you've saved $100 in popcorn, that's $100 you can put towards something that we're missing in the resource center. So my role is not to do the work. My role is to delegate it to somebody who's got it as their mission. So I think what you are hitting on, and what I hear from Elizabeth, is it's truly mission driven. It's knowing what you're supposed to do, when you're supposed to do it, who's supposed to do it, and what part does that add to the whole? Because if any of those cogs fall, then it all falls. So
I just can't resist, because a lot of the times when schools and districts first get to know me, they get to know me because they're trying to implement positive behavior intervention supports. And a lot of times they think what we're doing is implementing a set of rules and expectations, which is kind of true. But really, the goal is to find a way to live our values out loud, like to uncover, discover, and know for a fact who we are and what we do, and do our best to only do those things, and to see ourselves as a very much a value-driven organization. It's just been delicious to hear both of you really talk about it's what I first was thinking about as attention is really not attention. It's kind of a complementary pull in the right way, where sometimes you got to think really expansively about what we do. And we do that by starting first with, no, what can we do well? And how do we get other folks to help us meet needs that we know that need to be met, but we can't meet those as well as El Rio can, or some other organization in our community can. What I'd like to do, just as we say goodbye and end our conversation, is just from both of you, what you are both doing and the way you're going about leading your organizations. If you work in a caring profession, we work in jobs that will take 122% of us if we let it. And it's a very all-encompassing kind of world that we live in. The needs are just constant. The stakes are just very, very personal here. What helps you and your team stay grounded so that sustainability isn't just an aspiration, it's something that actually happens? And I guess, Elizabeth, would you mind talking about that a bit first?
Sure. Well, I guess this makes me really reflect that I think there is kind of a tension for organizations like mine that try to stay really focused on one mission, because we serve a population that has so many needs. And it can be, this relates to your question, because for a staff person that's interacting with young people and hearing all those needs and knowing that we aren't actively helping in a lot of the things that they need, like we're doing this one thing, it can be very hard. And so I guess I want to first say that boundaries are a gift. And I think that is one of the biggest ways. The way that we earn trust with youth is we say, this is how we can help. And then that's exactly how we help. And they have other needs, and we can try to help direct them to other services through our partner network. And that is what we do. But I think it does really build trust. And it is a gift for the young person to not make them guess, like, what is YOTO going to provide me? It's exactly this thing. We're going to tell you what, we're going to tell you how to get it. We're going to be very consistent in providing it to you. Then we become a reliable, like, source that they can really depend on. And we do provide other supports outside of our mission through our partners. So, it's not like we're saying, no, sorry, you have to sleep on the street. Like, no, we can help you sleep to a shelter, even though we don't provide housing. It's just, I think that we forget how helpful boundaries are, not just for the youth side, but on the staff side, on the, like, how do we sustain this? One of the ways is it's a lot easier to say no or redirect a youth somewhere else when we have very clear guidelines about what we can do. The boundary is a gift on both ends. And I think that's one of the ways that we don't burn people out, is we don't expect them to do everything. We want them to be very good at one thing, and then, or 5 things or whatever. And then, know.
But not 84.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, sure. But then know how to, play nice in the sandbox with all our partners, so we have good referral networks and can do the warm handoffs that Katie was talking about. So that's one thing. And then I think that links to, like, organizational sustainability as well, because we think a lot about how is YOTO going to be here for the youth in this school year, but also in 100 years from now, like, how are we also serving those youth? And maybe not just here in Pima County, but maybe, like, everywhere. So we have to think the long game is the thing. We want youth to be successful in graduating high school now, and we want in 10 years for them to be earning higher income and have stable housing. Like, we're always thinking about what is actually what we're trying to do, and how do we just build a sustainable organization so we can make sure that we get there. So the sustainability thing to me is both very personal, because people in nonprofits and caring professions, people just burn out. I mean, we burn through them. That's what happens. The need is so big. And so I think the boundaries help us retain people, because it helps the work be just very clear and honest, and we're really transparent with youth. And then organizationally, I think it's like the leadership's job to build a sustainable organization financially and with the right procedures, and making sure that we have strong policies in place that reduce a lot of risk for us and stuff like that, so that we can be here for the youth next decade and the decade after and the decade after.
Yeah. And just because I feel you deserve to know, just as, and everyone at YOTO deserves to know, just, I think our job as educators is at least 82% easier because YOTO exists. Like, it is just tremendous that we have that partnership, because otherwise it's one more impossible problem to solve without such a trusted, reliable partner. And just mission discipline seems to be a big part of that. Katie, I'm wondering how you might approach that. How do you help your team stay grounded when the needs of your community are immense?
Well, the first thing I'm going to say is, Elizabeth's right, boundaries. Boundaries are key. I have amazing teachers that really, really care, and they come and we hear stories that are happening in our community that overwhelm you, and you cry about it because there's no way you can't cry about them. But we have a saying on campus: don't own it. You can help it, you can refer it, you can be there, you can be support, but don't own it. It's not like, I tell my staff all the time, you can't take it home with you. This is a job. We love our jobs. I grow from my job daily. I celebrate every success that happens. But you know what? I've got my own life. And when I go home, I need to focus on my own home. And so that's a strong boundary that we talk about a lot on our campus, is don't bring your work into the classroom, and don't take your classroom into your home. So if you're gonna work in a Title I school with a high trauma rate, know your boundary, hold your boundary, love the kids when you're at school, and love your home when you're at home. Because you have to still be present in your family. If you give up your whole life and give up everything that you believe in so that you can be more present at work, it doesn't work. You've got to have a home life balance. And so our saying and you've dealt with my regional superintendent, he says it, I say it, it's family first.
Mm-hmm.
Family first. And once you are filled in yourself and you feel grounded in yourself, then you can really serve your community. So it's a lot of, in my seat, if I have I get a phone call, hey, my dad fell last night. I'm like, well, then you're not coming to work. You're staying home, you're doing you. Or it's my son's recital. We will find someone to cover for you, because you have to have that family in order to be present, especially when you're working in a high trauma school. And then, Tim, we still use the same PBIS motto that we created with you. And one of our actual,
wow. That's great to know, because that was a while ago. So that's great to know.
5 years ago. And one of the tenets of our motto is be a community member. Mm-hmm. That means understand where you are, understand what people around you are dealing with, and you support them to your best. But then one of the other tenets is be yourself. Mm-hmm. So you don't give up yourself to be a community member. If you're being yourself, you're a better community member. And so we've really dug into the be kind, be honest, be yourself, and be a community member. And if you are doing all of those 4 things, you're being the best partner to the person sitting next to you, but you're also honoring who you are. And so I think that motto really does fit the community school model. And I think it also fits what YOTO does, which is we are here to help you get to this destination, but you have to do it yourself. So you have to do it on your own. We can't do it for you. I can't send somebody out there to hold your hand and walk you from class to class. You have to be there. You have to be present. You have to do it on your own. And, I just left an IEP meeting where I told a young man, he's a 4th grader. And I said, honey, we can give you the education, but if you're not willing to take it, I can't force it down your throat. So you've got to accept what is here. And so setting those boundaries. And I think the answer is boundaries, know yourself and know your community.
I do think this one of those things where all of us in caring professions, we're working in spaces that will take 187% of us if we let it. And those boundaries are so important. And oh my goodness, it would be just a whole other podcast just to talk about how we discover where those boundaries are, honestly, just both personally and as an organization. But I would have to absolutely agree with that learning to set boundaries like a fence builder has probably been the one reason why I can say that I've been in education for 23 years. That as a principal, I left at 5 p.m. That was a boundary that I had, is I left at 5 p.m. because I was realizing that my family was not getting the best version of me. That is not right. That's not right. Which meant that my school honestly wasn't getting the best version of me either, right? So I thank you. It's just delicious to hear both of you, just amazing leaders, just share from different perspectives, how all of us as school leaders can grow and to better serve our communities, oftentimes by not trying to, well, actually, I would say always, it sounds like, always by not trying to do everything by ourselves. That yes, the needs are big. We have partners who can help, and the best time to reach out isn't the first time I have a need. And so let's start building these relationships ahead of time so that we've got these beautiful partnerships and just those beautiful data points that YOTO is achieving, like almost a double graduation rate than the state of Arizona at large. And just to think that the moving from an F status school to a B status school, that does not happen that quickly. It's unusual for things to happen that quickly. And there's mission focused reasons why that is happening, and boundaries seem to be a really key part of it. Thank you both for sharing your perspectives. I'm just grateful for both of you for being on the show. It's just the kind of conversation that just helps us work a lot smarter and love our students a little bit better. As always, to all of our listeners, I just wish that you have an amazing rest of your week, full of as many opportunities to be as good and kind to yourself as you are with those that you serve.